story, starting developing in this space here.
Sure. Thanks, and very good morning, everyone. Real pleasure to be with you here this morning. First of all, I'd like to dispel a couple of myths because many journalists actually ask me a couple of questions, and I'm sure that some of you probably are wondering about this as well. They asked me, they said, Ivan, I've seen you before and I've seen you many times on some television channel, some TV channel. And I said, really? Where was that? And they said that I've seen you on some Korean channel, some K-pop channel. Flattered, but sorry to disappoint you, I'm not Korean. I'm born and bred in Malaysia and very, very proud to be Malaysians and very, very proud to be here. Right, so a little bit about Fusionex. Fusionex is a company that's born and bred and grew in Malaysia. We started as an MNC company. Very, very happy to grow to be one of the largest and leading data analytics, artificial intelligence, and IoT companies in the world today. And we are the largest in terms of market presence. We are present in 15 countries in the US, in Europe, and also in Asia Pacific, spanning across 15 countries. The amount of data that we process doesn't come in the millions or billions. We process 236 trillion reports as of now. It's the largest data processing company that you can think in this region. And we really process a lot of data for companies ranging from artificial intelligence and processing data that you see in the next generation of data. Not just the structured data that you have in fields and columns on Excel spreadsheets, but really data spanning from e-commerce, trade facilitation, industry data, sensor data, Internet of Things, aviation data, manufacturing data, and lots of these, finding trends and patterns so that we can optimize things and make things a bit better. So think about this way. The way that we see things and how things are evolving is that instead of processing the same amount of data using 100 days, using a single computer, right now with technology, you can process the same amount of data within 1 day using 100 computers. And that's the analogy that we see. Instead of doing things the old-fashioned way, we challenge the status quo with visionaries, with companies, and with good, leading organizations and agencies like MDEC and World Bank, to push the status quo, to push the envelope and to do things better and better. So that's what we actually do, and we're very happy to be here and happy to share more ideas and brainstorm together how we can create a better future. But what we see is also that the rise of AI, data analytics, and big data is not there to replace jobs and occupations, but it's really to augment and really it's not an either or, but it's really what we see as a complementary way to do things where you can actually work with each other and coexist. And we have many case studies that we've actually done with many companies, with the likes of Intel, where you can see an automated factory really performing better to avoid unnecessary downtime and increase productivity, working with airports and airlines, working with e-commerce players and retail players, and very importantly the SME sector as well, because they need a lot of help in terms of how do they upgrade themselves, how do they onboard technology, and we're here to work with many of you to see how we can partner and find a better future for everyone.
Funding of the digital economy,
I think, to be honest, there's always room for improvement, and I think there's significant room for improvement in terms of infrastructure and everything that we want. But I would say this, many of the panelists will probably agree that we have to start somewhere, and we cannot wait for everything to be in place before we really embark on everything. If you think of the readiness of infrastructure, human capital, skill sets, the right kind of mindset and everything, it's really that it's a race in the entire world for everyone. I've been to 7 countries over the last 6 weeks, and every single country that I've been to, whether it's the US or the UK or Monte Carlo, and then I was in some emerging economies like Vietnam and also Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka was an interesting one because they're modeling the next phase of growth with and benchmarking that against Singapore, Malaysia, and also Australia. So there's a lot of ideas that are looking at that, and they are trying to leapfrog because they've lost a lot of time in terms of where they have domestic problems like the Tamil Tigers. So there's a lot of things that actually they are looking for to do this. So I think in terms of infrastructure-wise, of course, a country like Malaysia has a lot of improvements to go, but I do think that we have to take a look at things from a few perspectives. One, the fear of not knowing what lies ahead is very dangerous. And then when we speak to many organizations in Southeast Asia and Malaysia included, they say that I don't know what's coming, and it's intimidating because if I challenge the status quo, there are people who are afraid they're going to lose their jobs. There's going to be a lot of innovation, there's going to be a lack of skill sets, there's going to be a big gap to really cover. So we tell them this question. If we try to kind of tuck our heads down like an ostrich to think that a tsunami is not going to happen and wait for the rest of the world to do this first because they are the leaders and we're not ready for this, then it's never ever going to happen. Conversely, if we believe that innovation differentiates between a leader and a follower, and we, as in Malaysia, want to be leaders, then don't worry about what the rest of the world is doing. Don't worry about Indonesia, don't worry about Japan, don't worry about China, the US. The US didn't become a leader because they would watch and see what the rest of the world wanted to do. They decided that this was good for the country, and they went ahead. Right? It doesn't matter whether we're ready in terms of infrastructure and things. Of course, those need to be ironed out along the way. But we have to start with what Dr. Yasmin mentioned in terms of an MVP. Make sure that we know what we can realistically achieve. Think not about all the nitty-gritty steps that we need to have in place in every single ingredient, because that's a matter of paralysis. It's not going to happen. If we want step 1 to step 100 to be all in place, then nothing is ever going to happen. Then we might as well be a bureaucratic organization. But if we think that we want to find the end solution, so you visualize that as this is what the desired outcome would be, and then we move backwards to say that what is the shortest path to get to this, and then you will find amazing things that you can visualize it, and in my map I have to say that it takes 1, 2, 3 steps. And what does it take? A combination of human beings, the right leadership, the right vision, and a combination of AI, robotics, and so on and so forth. Don't fight AI. Don't fight human beings. Our fight is supposed to be how do we challenge and overcome poverty? How do we challenge and overcome some of the problems that we face? Because I do think that sometimes people say that, why is AI here? It's going to replace jobs. And when we have those conversations with organizations actually tell us that nobody wants to be a hawker. Nobody wants to be there to sweep the roads. Nobody wants to be there to really do the dirty jobs. And why is AI, big data, IoT in place? It's really to put robots and AI to where it's supposed to be, which is to do the 3Ds. Not three-dimensional things that you see in AutoCAD, but the 3Ds as in dirty jobs, dull jobs, and dangerous jobs. Take for example, if there is a robot, and there is one right now that is in prototype mode, that can actually do what doctors can't do. You can actually go into your throat, and you can actually go down, it's just this small. And you can actually pluck out some of the sentiments and kind of do a little bit of anything that you want to grab, a little bit of specimen out of the body. You can do that. Can a human being do that? Not as, of course not. We can't do that. What about dirty jobs such as sweeping the roads? None of us over here are thinking about training our kids or our next generation to be sweepers. It's not that those jobs didn't exist in the past. Of course, back then that was a necessity. But in the future, 10, 20 years down the road, which of us are thinking about training our kids to be a sweeper, to be a cleaner? None of us are doing that. Which of us are thinking about training our kids to go to the factory and take down notes in terms of log data? None of us. So that's the kind of jobs that are going to change. And the jobs of tomorrow will need to be jobs that will require amazing analytical thinking. And that's what we're looking for in terms of the next generation. There's a lot of work to be done, but we have to start somewhere. So I always say, start now. And you have to really start small, think big, but scale really, really fast, because time really waits for no one. I do think that Malaysia has the ingredients and the right kind of leadership and vision to be able to do this, and the right talent pool as well. We just need to give people an opportunity to start and pivot along the way if we find mistakes, and that's the true secret of success.
Thanks, I think we'll remember.
Example to put things in perspective. Today, if you think of Instagram, if you think of Facebook, Twitter, social media, no government agency, no ministry can just say that I can protect all the citizens of the country, right? Be it America, be it UK, be it Japan, be it any country, be it Singapore, be it Malaysia. I think it's a shared responsibility for us to educate our next generation, to educate ourselves to say that what are the security threats. For example, if I post on Instagram where I am every day, it tells the location to any potential perpetrator in terms of where to kidnap me, for example. If I don't educate my kids and our nieces and nephews and our next generation about the importance of having a good password protection mechanism. Let's say, for example, alphanumeric, don't create your password as password 123, for example, right? And change your password periodically, and don't store your password on a piece of paper that somebody can come to your desk and notice that. And don't share your passwords with anyone. Certain basic concepts like this to protect our data. That is a shared responsibility by us as parents, as teachers, as policymakers, as people in the private sector, as in advisors, as in professional services companies, to advise and educate our next generation. That is a shared responsibility for us. Of course, there will be protections and policies put in place for data sovereignty, for encryption, for all these things. That is key. I think it's a shared responsibility. Secondly, don't worry about what the next generation will think and whether they're able to cope with it or not. For all you know, they're smarter than us because they are born in the cloud. They're born in the generation that is a digital and internet era. Some parents ask me, they say that, I don't know if I change this in my organization, whether the next generation will be able to pick up. And I share with them this example. Last week, my daughter was in a concert. She was singing on stage, and then that video was uploaded on YouTube. And then her aunts and uncles took a look at that video on YouTube and they said, why do I only see the leg of and the legs of people and I only see the bottom of the stage? I can't see the person, I can't see anybody singing. Why is that? This is crap. And then the 6-year-old son, they said, Mommy, Daddy, let me show you how to do it. You slide upwards, you slide downwards. This is using a 360-degree camera on YouTube. You can see the head here, you can see the audience as well. You can turn around and say, 6-year-old telling a 40-year-old uncle and auntie, you don't see just the leg, you can see the head, you can see the 360-degree camera. Go pro. So, it's true, it sounds hilarious. And they were laughing and the mother would say, Alamak, this is where I am, I need to check with my kids. So you see a lot of these things. Doesn't matter whether it's online booking, doesn't matter whether it's visualization, doesn't matter whether it's apps or natural language. The kids will do things because it's natural and instinctive. It's instinctive for them. It might not be what we have grown up with. So don't worry about that. The kids are very smart and they will be able to do things. In fact, nobody wants to say that when they grow up, I have to fill in 100 forms on paper forms to do this and to do things the old-fashioned way. The kids will say that, which era do you come from? I have nephews and nieces who their parents say that, don't get them on social media, buy them from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. They go to school and the parents say that, the kids and their peers say that, do you come from dinosaur land? Do you come from the cave? So what I'm trying to say is that, prepare for what is right for our next generation. Don't think about the past. The past is waste paper. The present is the newspaper. And the future is the question paper. So we need to answer the right questions by starting and ask the right questions and get the right answers. And once you create this ecosystem, this awareness, this education program that we know is relevant and suitable for Malaysia, don't copy the other country, it doesn't work. You have to reference them, that's as a historical method, but do what's best for Malaysia and do what's right. Don't do what's wrong that the other country is doing and I just do it because the other country is doing it. And your kids, your next generation, our people, maybe our generation won't need to face this in the next 5 to 10 years. Our next generation will want something that is not dumb. Nobody likes a dumb system. Create a smart system and everybody will compliment you for that. And that's what I believe. That's what we see right now. And of course the future is unknown and we have to get prepared for it. Whatever tidal wave that is coming in terms of changes, in terms of how we work, how we live, how we play, it's not something that any one of us has a crystal ball to foresee. What we can say is that things are going to change and we believe that it's going to change. If we execute it well, it can be done in an optimal way. If we don't, and the tsunami comes and we're not prepared for it, that's the worst situation to be in, right? So what I do think is that there will be jobs, there will be certain things such as dangerous jobs, as I mentioned, the 3 Ds, right? Dirty, dull, dangerous jobs. Those jobs are probably going to really change hands and going to evolve, and these are going to change to different types of jobs. Higher skill jobs, analytical jobs where we do planning. And planning is really about not planning and planning and planning, sitting out not doing anything. Planning is really about taking the future into the present so that you can plan something and do something for the future. And that's what really planning is all about. So I believe that the dirty and dangerous and dull jobs, for example, defusing a bomb. For example, just now we mentioned in healthcare, perhaps there will be a combination of doctors working with some mechanical arms. Like now, if you talk about LASIK, it comes with technology as well. People don't use your hands and just use a scissors and knife and just slice your cornea and things like that. That's not what you want to do. In fact, people are more comfortable if there's some precision in what's being done. But defusing a bomb, does any one of us want to do that, right? And if you go up on a rocket to outer space, perhaps you could have a robot that does that as well. Let me give you one example that happened a couple of weeks ago. A cafeteria owned, and this is a chain cafe owned by a friend of mine, he's the owner. He just got 8 robots to be in his cafe. And these are robots, F&B robots, they come and serve you, kind of an AGV thing, right?
In Malaysia?
In Malaysia. They'll take you to his cafe, right? It's in Ipoh. So what it does is an AGV, which is an automated, guided vehicle. It takes you over there, right? So I asked him, when you did this, did you have to reduce your staff? He said, no. When I did this, my sales doubled. And because of that, the staff were there, not delivering the food and the drinks, but the staff spend more time interacting with the customers to ask them how are things, how's your experience. And most of the questions were around that people were saying that I just came to see a robot and my user. So they sales improved. But the staff now can spend more time interacting with customers in a friendly, less stressful way. And that is an example of a real example and epitome of what innovation is all about. So I think let's not fret and worry about what we cannot control. Don't cover ourselves and hide and become a hermit into a cave to say, I don't want to embrace this. AI, digitalization, internet, and VR and AR are all coming. And we need to educate our next generation so that they're well prepared for this. And I think that will give Malaysia a very, very bright future.
That's a very nice example.